Today, we're going to be looking at a business analyst role that makes well into the six figures, depending on where you fall on this range, if you were to be able to land a role like this. So we're going to walk through the details of what the job posting is asking for. I'm going to explain to you exactly what a business analyst like that does and where they fit into the stakeholder set that most business analysts have. But before we get into all of that, let's just review some of the key points that I want to make sure that you understand by the end of this video. Key point number one is that not all business analyst roles are made the same. So if you're the type of person who wants to become a business analyst, but you're not interested in systems at all, then the business process analyst type of role is the type of role that you want to aim for, because as we'll see in the job posting, there are no real systems related tasks or activities that you are required to perform. You're very, very heavily focused on making sure just that the organization's business processes are structured really well. Second point is that as a BPA, you can actually pull in very similar types of income as business analysts or business systems analysts. So in the industry, the BSAs and the BAs typically tend to make a lot more money than the business process analysts at the junior and intermediate levels. But once you get to the senior level as a BPA, your income levels start to kind of level out, and so the BPA has the capacity essentially to make similar types of income as the other two key types of business analysts that we have. And so the key point here is, again, just kind of reiterating this fact that the business analysis profession is a profession that has options really for people who are coming from a lot of different backgrounds, and there are many different options that you can pursue depending on the type of background that you come from, because not everybody comes from a systems background and not everybody's interested in learning the systems aspect of being a business analyst. So the business analysis profession has space for anyone and everyone coming from all different types of backgrounds. Key point is that you have to be a really good analyst and you have to learn the analysis skills regardless of which one of these options that you choose. Okay, so let's dive right into the actual job posting and look at it a little bit more detail to see what it is that this employer is asking for in exchange for the $105,000 to $130,000 that they're offering for this role. And so you'll see that they're saying that the role starts at 105 and it caps out at 130 per year. And they say that it is depending on experience, and we'll see the kind of experience that they're asking for. The second thing that they're asking for is they're making sure that you are on the same time zone as the organization's headquarters and where most of the business process activity essentially happens. And a big part of the reason why they're asking for this is because business process design oftentimes requires a lot of workshops in addition to offline work, offline discovery and design work. Those online workshops need to essentially happen with all of the stakeholders that you're doing business process design with. And so that's why they want you to be in the same time zone, because they want to make sure that you're able to synchronize with all of your key stakeholders as you're doing the current state analysis and the future state design of the business processes for the organization. The third thing that they're asking for here, which is very unique to business process analyst roles, is that they're asking you to have a Six Sigma Green Belt certification at a minimum. So if you don't know what Six Sigma is, it is a process optimization framework that essentially teaches you how to optimize business processes. And all of the focus of Six Sigma is on process improvement. And again, Six Sigma doesn't talk about requirements. It doesn't talk about systems analysis or any of the other stuff that a typical business analyst might be doing. Business process analysts, again, focus very, very heavily on the business process, and that's why they want you to have the Six Sigma Green Belt certification. So looking a little bit more deeply at the job, we can see that they are asking you to essentially to be reporting into the director of the business process optimization, and they're going to be collaborating very closely with the cross-functional teams to make sure that you can understand their existing processes, you can identify opportunities for improvement and for standardization, and to make sure that you're able to essentially implement the optimization efforts and the future state design that your director is going to help to kind of establish. What you're essentially doing here is that you're helping them to roll that out once they've kind of designed out the new future state business processes in the organization. They talk a little bit about the organization here, and then they get straight into the primary responsibilities, What they're asking you to do here is to make sure that you can help them to develop a comprehensive business process optimization standard within the organization. And so again, focus is on business processes. You're going to go in, you're going to understand the current state of how they operate, you're going to figure out what the opportunities for improvement are, and then you're going to be helping the director of process optimization essentially fix a lot of those issues and to, very importantly, to standardize a lot of those issues. Second thing that they're asking you here to do is to independently analyze and evaluate the existing business processes, right? Just as I said a little bit earlier, understanding the current state of the business processes is usually the first step in these types of projects, because you really kind of have to have a good sense of how the organization functions today before you try to bring them into a future state where they're going to be operating better and standardizing that. So the very first thing that they're going to ask you to do here is to understand their current business processes. And you'll see that they have a bit of a systems requirement here for you to be able to document the workflows of the systems. This is usually at a very, very high level. So you don't really have to have any systems knowledge to be able to do this part of the task. All you need to be able to understand is essentially, hey, is the system kind of sending a piece of information from one person to another person? And if so, at what point in the process is it doing that? Full stop. That's essentially all you need to understand about systems to be able to do that piece of it. They are asking you to work with your key stakeholders to make sure you can gather the detailed information to understand their process requirements needs. And again, that kind of factors into these other two here. And what you're doing here is supporting the director of development in making sure that they are essentially putting together the future state of the process and kind of rolling that out. Uh, they expect you to be able to apply the process improvement methodology such as Lean Six Sigma. And again, the reason they are asking you to be Lean Six Sigma certified is because that is the framework that they're going to be using to be able to carry out their process improvements. You need to do detailed process assessments as your current state. You need to be able to map a business process. You need to be able to perform what is called gap analysis, which we can talk about in a future episode. And you need to be able to pinpoint opportunities for streamlining, enhancing the efficiency, and then standardizing the process, right? So I'm hoping that you're starting to see here that all of these requirements that they have for the job posting are aimed at helping you do a couple of things, right? Number one, on a process improvement initiative like this, your first task is to understand the current state and to help your director kind of establish what they call the future state, right? So we'll call this the future state, and this is the current state. This inside of the current state here, you're going in, you're just understanding how business processes function. What your director is likely going to do is they are going to they are going to try to understand what they think that the future state looks like by and then they are going to perform something called gap analysis. The GA here stands for gap analysis. And the gap analysis essentially just says, hey, here's how our business's processes currently work. Here's how we think we want to work in the future. What are the gaps essentially between the current state and the future state? And those gaps become a list of action items that need to be, we'll just call these actions and deliverables, right? These become a list of actions and deliverables that your team essentially needs to roll out within the organization. So within the organization, typically on projects like this, oftentimes there really is no system side. And what you're doing is, as a senior business analyst, you are typically kind of more at the Shauna level of analyst here. And you are often directly embedded inside of the business side, because all of the work that needs to be done on these types of projects are process improvement projects. So you live with the business, you try to understand exactly how they work, and then you work with the director essentially to help your business customers improve their processes with little to no IT work at all here. So these IT folks that you typically have on a lot of the projects that business analysts run, these do not exist in business process improvement initiatives only, or they exist really kind of at a very, very low level at the most. So hopefully this gives you an idea of what a business process analyst job looks like. Hopefully you have seen that if you are not a systems-based person, that you still have space in the business analysis profession by focusing on the business process analysis part of things. And hopefully you understand that at the senior level, the salary levels of a senior business process analyst kind of level up to a typical business analyst or a typical business systems analyst that is also at the senior level. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.